Good morning, Little Masters, and welcome back to today's Tolkien Times. I'm the Man of the West, also from the Prancing Pony podcast. Let's wrap up Week 41 and Series 6 with Second Age Saturday. Now, this series, we've been reading Aldarion and Erendis from Unfinished Tales. Let's go ahead and pick up where we left off last week as Aldarion began to woo Erendis. Now, they have just had their little chit-chat about Uinen and Orome, and then they'd ridden in silence, Erendis returning to her parents' home. To him, that is her father, she said nothing, but to her mother Nuneth she told the words that had passed between herself and Aldarion. "All or nothing, Erendis," said Nuneth. "So you were as a child. But you love this man, and he is a great man, not to speak of his rank, and you will not cast out your love from your heart so easily, nor without great hurt to yourself. A woman must share her husband's love with his work and the fire of his spirit, or make him a thing not lovable. But I doubt that you will ever understand such counsel. Yet I am grieved, for it is full time that you were wed, and having borne a fair child, I had hoped to see fair grandchildren, nor if they were cradled in the king's house would that displease me." This counsel did not indeed move the mind of Erendis. Nevertheless, she found that her heart was not under her will, and her days were empty, more empty than in the years when Aldarion had been gone, for he still abode in Numenor, and yet the days passed, and he did not come again into the west. Now Almarion the queen, being acquainted by Nuneth with what had passed, and fearing lest Aldarion should seek solace in voyaging again, for he had been long ashore, sent word to Erendis, asking that she return to Armenelos. And Erendis, being urged by Nuneth and by her own heart, did as she was bid. There she was reconciled to Aldarion, and in the spring of the year, when the time of the Erukierme was come, they ascended in the retinue of the king to the summit of the Meneltarma, which was the hallowed mountain of the Numenorians. When all had gone down again, Aldarion and Erendis remained behind, and they looked out, seeing all the Isle of Westerness laid green beneath them in the spring, and they saw the glimmer of light in the west, where far away was Avalone, and the shadows in the east upon the great sea. And Menel was blue above them. They did not speak, for no one, save only the king, spoke upon the height of Meneltarma. But as they came down, Erendis stood a moment, looking towards Emerie, and beyond, towards the woods of her home. "Do you not love the Yozian?" she said. "I love it indeed," he answered, "though I think that you doubt it. For I think also of what it may be in time to come, and the hope and splendor of its people, and I believe that a gift should not lie idle in hoard." But Erendis denied his words, saying, "Such gifts as come from the Valar, and through them from the One, are to be loved for themselves now, and in all nows. They are not given for barter, for more or for better. The Edain remain mortal men, Aldarion, great though they be, and we cannot dwell in the time that is to come, lest we lose our now for a phantom of our own design." Then taking suddenly the jewel from her throat, she asked him, "Would you have me trade this to buy me other goods that I desire?" "No," said he, "but you do not lock it in hoard. Yet I think you set it too high, for it is dimmed by the light of your eyes." Then he kissed her on the eyes, and in that moment she put aside fear and accepted him, and their troth was plighted upon the steep path of the Meneltarma. They went back then to Armenelos, and Aldarion presented Erendis to Tar Meneldur as the betrothed of the king's heir, and the king was rejoiced, and there was merrymaking in the city and in all the isle. As betrothal gift, Meneldur gave to Erendis a fair portion of land in Emerie, and there he had built for her a white house. But Aldarion said to her, "Other jewels I have in hoard, gifts of kings in far lands, to whom the ships of Numenor have brought aid. I have gems as green as the light of the sun in the leaves of the trees which you love." "No," said Erendis, "I have had my betrothal gift, though it came beforehand. It is the only jewel that I have or would have, and I will set it yet higher." Then he saw that she had caused the white gem to be set as a star in a silver fillet, and at her asking, he bound it on her forehead. She wore it so for many years, until sorrow befell, and thus she was known far and wide as Tar Elestirne, the Lady of the Starbrow. Thus there was for a time peace and joy in Armenelos, in the house of the king and in all the isle. And it is recorded in ancient books that there was great fruitfulness in the golden summer of that year, which was the 858th of the Second Age. Now I'm going to start by saying that Nuneth maybe means well, but her advice is troubling. A woman must share her husband's love with his work and the fire of his spirit, or make him a thing not lovable? That's not advice I'd want to give my daughter, but it's clear she's angling for grandkids, and royal grandkids would be a pretty nice bonus. Which is why it's not a surprise when it turns out she's in cahoots with Aldarion, who calls for Erendis. She then is reconciled to Aldarion, and they join the king as they get to the top of the Meneltarma, the Pillar of Heaven, for the Eru Kierme, the springtime prayer to Eru, as we talked about on Word Nerd Wednesday. Then on the way down, she and Aldarion have a moment. I absolutely adore what she has to say about the land of gift. Really, all gifts, really. They should be loved for themselves now and in all nows. Her counsel to Aldarion that we cannot dwell in the time that is to come, lest we lose our now for a phantom of our own design, is so beautifully wise. I really cannot wait to spend more time talking about that in a future season of the PPP. But just absorb that, if you will. And then they finally get engaged. Get this, 58 years after they first met. Now, I'm not sure there's much more I can add to that. I mean, sure, they do live a long time. Erendis will live to be 214, Aldarion 398. But even if we cut that 58 years by 75%, right? We cut all the numbers by 75%. That would put Aldarion's lifespan at 99 and Erendis' lifespan at a tragically short 53. That would be the equivalent of a normal 14-year wait. Put a ring on her finger already, man. That's crazy. But her engagement makes everybody happy. The king, the queen, and I'm sure Nuneth. She gets a custom home built in her newly granted lands in Emerie, and then she refuses any other engagement gift. She honors the jewel that he gave to her, 45 years ago. She has it set in a fillet of silver, just like the Elendilmere, and that's the same tradition, the idea that they don't wear a crown, but just the silver fillet. And there was much rejoicing, except for the little bit of foreshadowing. She wore it for so many years until sorrow befell. And we'll get to that sorrow eventually. For now, though, that does it for this week's Second Age Saturday. Thank you for joining me for this and for all of Series 5. I'm thinking of continuing this story next series, as I don't feel like I can put both the Lay of Lathian and this tale on the shelf for that long, but we'll see. Now, when we do come back to this, and we will, I can promise you that, we will see that Aldarion is, once again, taken by a deep longing for the sea. Now, one more thing. The 1-year anniversary of today's Tolkien Times is coming up on May 15th. Now, the show will be on hiatus that day, but we'll come back and celebrate on Monday, May 20th. Thank you so much for listening or watching over the last year and nearly 250 episodes. Many more to come, I hope. Please visit patreon.com/Tolkien Times to help make sure there are a lot more to come. Also, how you can support the show, get an ad-free feed, join the Content Council, get a bonus episode every week, and a whole lot more. And then, of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Follow or subscribe in your podcast apps, and follow @Tolkien Times on social media. Finally, as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.